It's one thing when you come after a mama, it's another thing when you come after her kids.
So this event we're heading to, Mamas for Desantis, we're going to hear First Lady Casey Desantis talk about the importance of moms getting out for elections, moms going out to vote.
I said, man, those gas prices are high. And Madison looks at me and she goes, that's Joe Biden.
So we traveled down here to Miami this week to talk to Florida voters, to talk to these moms, and hear what they think about these upcoming midterm elections. We want to hear what they have to say.
I think the most important thing is parenting and being a parent at home and educating them with what your family's values are.
To protect the innocence of our children.
I mean, that's what people don't know, how strong a woman can be. And a woman's vote is very important.
We're down here today at Bay 13, a brewery here in Miami. It was a packed house today, lots of mamas, lots of grandmas who are in there talking about the issues that are most important to them and the most important to mamas here in Florida and across the nation.
Everywhere I go, a mama says, how can I help support the Desantis agenda? How can I support what he's done on education? How can I get involved?
Governor DeSantis' handling of the pandemic has garnered huge amounts of support from parents. He locked down the state later and opened up earlier, insisted on keeping schools open, and refused to instate a mask or vaccine mandate. And when the state was made aware of some of the progressive ideology being taught in schools, he quickly took action.
And I think it really was COVID that allowed a lot of these moms to peer into the classroom for the first time and to see what was being taught without their consent and behind their backs.
As she speaks to the women at the Mamas for DeSantis events, First Lady Casey DeSantis points to her husband's many accomplishments, and she urges mothers to read and circulate the governor's freedom agenda. Florida's First Lady sat down with us to fill us in on her plans to rally mothers.
You've been doing a lot of work rallying these mamas to come out to vote. Can you share a little bit about what that's been like?
You know why? Is because mamas are fired up. I think everybody looks back and they remember what 2018 was like, right? It was a nail biter. It got down to 32,000 votes, a half of a percentage point between the way Florida has gone, which is a bastion of freedom and a light to the entire world, versus what would have happened had the other person had been elected. And it would have been worse than places like California, Illinois, Michigan, and New York.
Here's how the governor has defined that relationship between Florida and the states that Florida's First Lady mentions.
During COVID, when people would come in from California or New York, they would say that it was like being in a different country. We really served as America's West Berlin in many respects.
And so we know what's on the ballot. Freedom is on the ballot. And one of the biggest groups of folks that's going to help us get to where we ultimately want to be with a slam dunk election are mamas.
Right, and you're a mother of 3 yourself, right?
Yes.
So as a mother, can you share with us, what are the issues that are most important to mothers when they're voting?
There's a lot. I mean, one of which is public safety, right? You see a lot of these other states defunding and demonizing law enforcement. In Florida, we have the blues back. You look at education, one of the things I'm the most passionate about. We should not be indoctrinating these kids. We should be educating them. And so you look at the anti-CRT legislation that was passed by the legislature and signed by the governor, the transparency in education, which is one of the most important things.
The mothers and grandmothers we spoke with both before and after the event strongly praised Governor DeSantis' efforts to protect children's education. Here's Elizabeth.
He is putting all the care in the school boards. He's protecting what the teachers are learning in a school and give us the right as a parent to have the ability to teach our children what is right and what is wrong. He is respecting that.
One mother we met, Myra, tells us that her number one issue as a voter and as an attorney is safety.
We don't want our city and Florida to be anything like other states where crime is rampant in the streets, people are getting killed, beaten up.
Another mother, Marisol, said her number one issue is protecting children in schools.
That issue is very important because the moms are concerned that their kids are getting indoctrinated in schools instead of actually getting educated.
Over the last year, we've seen DeSantis act to protect education and to fight woke ideology in schools on several occasions, such as the Stop the Wrongs to Our Kids and Employees Act, or the Stop Woke Act, which protects schools, colleges, and corporations from critical race theory ideology.
No taxpayer dollars should be used to teach our kids to hate our country or to hate each other.
And if parents aren't getting that, he's empowered them to take legal action.
Now, families have the right to be able to sue a school district if they're not being transparent in what they're teaching your kids or what's being put in your children's library.
We as a woman would say, you don't mess with our children. These are my children, and we fight.
The coronavirus pandemic has significantly changed the way that parents look at political candidates and elections. One New York Times report suggests that many parents are becoming single-issue voters, obsessively focused on preventing COVID mandates and lockdowns, and heavily skeptical of public health officials.
Why is media...
They should be skeptical of the, quote, health officials during COVID because everything that they told us was basically a lie. I mean, they said, wear the masks, it'll stop transmission, take the vaccine and you won't get sick and you won't transmit. So I think parents are very upset by that. The other thing were these mask mandates. When you look at the masks, I mean, Fauci from the very beginning, he knew that these things didn't work. It's like putting a chain link fence in front of a gnat thinking that you're going to stop it. But they never acknowledged the ramifications of what those masks were doing to our kids. The emotional toll that it was taking, because never before have we taken away the ability for kids to be able to see and receive a smile. And so now they're admitting too the developmental delays. Kids aren't able to speak as well. They started some of those critical years in kindergarten, first grade, with a mask on their face and not the ability to be able to see their teacher. The kids were coming home and they had swapped masks. That's not very sanitary. There's actually a group of moms in Florida who took those masks and brought them to a lab to have them tested.
Casey Desantis is referring to back in June 2021, when parents sent their children's masks to the University of Florida Mass Spectrometry Research and Education Center. Those masks tested positive for at least 11 pathogens.
And they found all kinds of bacteria and E. coli and all of these things that were in there. It was an atrocity, what a lot of folks did to those kids, and I am so proud of the governor to stand strong with no vax mandates and no mask mandates from the very beginning.
If you're trying to deny kids a proper in-person education, I'm going to stand in your way, and I'm going to stand up for the kids in Florida. If you're trying to restrict people, impose mandates, if you're trying to ruin their jobs and their livelihoods and their small business, if you are trying to lock people down, I am standing in your way, and I'm standing for the people of Florida.
Other big moves from the governor: he's banned late-term abortions and biological males from participating in women's sports or using women's bathrooms. Now he's pushing to protect minors from transgender surgeries.
You saw the other day the governor went and suspended a state attorney who wasn't upholding his oath to the Constitution, the U.S., and the state.
Another looming concern for parents: radical, highly sexualized gender ideology woven into their children's school curriculums, and often without their knowledge.
And I'm so glad that COVID opened up their eyes to actually see what was going on in the school system. And it's concerning. It's the books that they're actually putting out there. It's what they're teaching them subtly, because some of it is not in the books.
I think the governor said it best, that are we doing so well with reading, writing, and arithmetic that we think that we need to be injecting gender ideology down the throat of a 4-year-old? We don't. And so that's why they've really passed the legislation where we have parental rights in education.
Media activists and Democrats use the phrase gender-affirming care, often in the context of minors, to mask the more grisly details of transgender surgeries, hormones, and puberty blockers.
Why do they use this phrase?
It's not gender-affirming care. I think that that's another talking point from the left. But if you look at the warning from the FDA for something like puberty blockers, those puberty blockers can cause brain swelling and permanent blindness. And that's just what we know about these things. But they're giving it to these kids in experimental form. And then you talk about performing these procedures of double mastectomies and castrating these young boys, knowing that this stuff, this gender dysphoria resolves itself, then they're forced to live with this for the rest of their life. I agree with 100% what the governor said about the doctors who are performing those surgeries. They should be sued.
Here's Governor Desantis in early August.
You don't disfigure 10, 12, 13-year-old kids based on gender dysphoria. 80% of it resolves anyways by the time they get older. So why would you be doing this? I think these doctors need to get sued for what's happening. I'm sorry.
Why is this being pushed right now?
Your guess is as good as mine. I think it's just all part of an agenda that the left is pushing. But I'll tell you, the American people, and moms especially, don't like it. And we don't like it when it's being forced in front of our kids, particularly our kindergartners, without our consent or knowledge. It's wrong. And in Florida, it ain't happening.
I don't remember ever having a teacher tell me who I liked, who I didn't, or, if I thought this was my friend. There's no place for that. There is to teach.
The peer pressure is very, very, very great with youngsters growing up.
And while the state seeks to safeguard children from extreme ideologies, Florida's First Lady is focusing on supporting kids who do not have both parents, particularly those children without fathers.
One of the things that the governor and myself have been very invested in is the fatherhood crisis we're seeing across the nation. We've invested $61 million in a lot of mentorship programs. I have an initiative called Hope Florida, where we're working primarily with struggling single moms to provide their kids mentors to be able to facilitate the opportunity for them to live up to their God-given potential and the American dream by having a father figure.
Government Desantis, First Lady, is doing a wonderful job to take care of the family, our children, and the generations to come.
Government can't and shouldn't fix all problems, but honestly, if there is something that we can do, we can incentivize mentorship for a lot of these kids to be able to have that connection with a father figure.
Casey Desantis' Hope Florida, A Pathway to Prosperity, is an initiative through which their care navigators provide help to Floridians who submit requests for assistance through what's called the Care Portal. She hopes the community-based effort will spur the faith community to carry on the work that the government has started.
So let's say Sally, who's coming into the system through the Department of Children and Families, she is a struggling single mom. She doesn't have bunk beds. She doesn't have mattresses. Her kids are having a hard time eating. She can't put food on the table. What a Hope Navigator will do will take those needs, input them into the system, and then a real-time alert will go to those participating faith and community-based organizations. And what happens then is those institutions can deliver those needs directly to Sally's doorstep. So there's a connection that has been made between Sally and the participating faith organizations, and they cannot unsee what they saw, and those faith-based communities are not going to let Sally or her kids go hungry again.
Many attribute Glenn Youngkin's victory in Virginia to the parent-led rebellion against ideological content in schools. Team Desantis seeks to also mobilize parents who are angry about leftist attempts at subverting education. But rather than building off a shocking incident like the Loudoun County sexual assault case exposed by the Daily Wire, the governor's team is creating organic momentum through events like the one we attended.
The women's vote is very important. I don't know if you know that, how important the women's vote is, but you're going to see it. You're going to see it. If we get all women out there voting, we got it.
I'm 24/7 in Little Havana, making sure nobody is going to woke Little Havana.
Governor DeSantis has had a very aggressive approach in dealing with these different culture war issues like transgender surgeries for children, late-term abortions, sex education in schools, gender ideology. A lot of governors are afraid to wade into these issues and they're worried that it'll affect voters. But it seems like down here in Miami, Governor DeSantis' approach to these issues is only building momentum.
I think it's really important that we as mamas show up in droves.
Do the sentiments we heard today align with the rest of the country? Is Virginia a bellwether? We're going to keep asking, and we'll keep you updated. Also, be sure to comment and let us know where we should go next.